Torah Or Page Yudalit, second column, the last paragraph. Okay, the last thing that Rebbe was explaining was that just like the nefesh doesn't function until it comes into the body, a person who's brilliant has a lot of knowledge of Chokhmah, but if he's not thinking the Chokhmah, it's there, but it's not in a revealed way. So the same thing, Elokus, the concept of Tzimtzum or Makom Panu doesn't mean it's not there, it means it's not revealed. So he said, and then he says, there's a difference between the parts of Atzilus to Bria and the difference between the other parses. Between Atzilus and Bria, because Atzilus is Elokus. It's not tangible spheres yet. So therefore, between Atzilus and Bria is a Makom Panui, so relatively speaking, but between Bria and Yetzirah and Asiyah, it's not the Makom Panui. So he says like this: but that's a much lesser level of tzimtzum. What does that mean? A great teacher wants to teach the students. The Talmud was not able to understand it as is. If he would just explain the seichel as is, he wouldn't understand it. Therefore, we have to give it a mashal in a way of an analogy or a riddle or whatever. Okay, like the Mishalim of Shlomo Melech in the whole book of Mishlei. The Shmarcham Isha Zara. Shlomo Melech over there says you have to be careful from an evil woman, evil wife. So over there it's a mashal of the Yetzer Hara, which is evil, and you have to be careful from it. She mashal and them, or is by the way, you have what we're learning the whole time. When you speak of the revelation of Elokus as Or, as light, and you give a mashal of Ur HaShemesh, that Ur HaShemesh only exists out of the sun, in the sun. That's in order for us to have a little bit of an understanding what it means when you speak about Or of Elokus. Now, the sun, that mashal of the sun, has nothing to do with Elokus. It's just in order to have a little bit of an understanding. If the Chassidus in Kabbalah would just tell us as it is, we would not get anything. So he says, Shimoshal nimsham daba veidazar, which is zarim divrei Torah. V'chen ki yetz b'zar sharin yonim. Kamei, he says like this: Mashemeviyim mashal midvarim pshutim gashmim. We give a mashal from simple physical things, l'dvarim ha'endem b'rumei shalelim, to things that are the loftiest levels of Chassidus. Chassidus gives a mashal of, in order to yesh miyesh, there has to be an ayin be'emsa, right? So he gives a mashal of a seed. You put it in the ground and it rots, it germinates, and then you're able to grow something out of it. That zera is earth that you step on. Yeah? Yet, you're going to use that mashal or the mashal of earth for malchus of Atzilus. That is the lowest. So what does dirt have to do with malchus of Atzilus? But in other words, there is a parsa that you can't even teach it in the way of a mashal. Even a mashal wouldn't suffice to explain it. That understanding, that seichel has to be completely removed. Not removed, non-existent, but not revealed. A mashal is you reveal that seichel, but it becomes cloaked and covered by a physical analogy. In our mashals, our minyanim achedim, this mashal comes from different things completely. Shlomo inyan ha-seichel, nothing to do with the seichel. Shereitz that you want to learn about it. Therefore, only through that can you understand the seichel. Therefore, we explain it with other things. Explain it with other things. A mashal to explain spiritual things. One thing has nothing to do with the next, meaning it's a parsa, it's a covering. You're not talking about on the other side, you're talking about gashmistic things that are very difficult to understand. But through the mashal, you get it. So he said, "V'zeu inyan parsa mafsik ben atzilus ubriya." That is already the parsa. That is the parsa ben atzilus ubriya. Shu b'chinas mosach mavdil l'dvarim l'daber minyanim acherim. Then you start speaking about other things. Shalei minyan atzilus, not at all in the realm of atzilus, which is a level of chokhmah, is a different level than shein merchayv and mos chacham mishabelim abriya. Remember he said before, chokhmah of atzilus is not actual tangible chokhmah. It's only the source that chokhmah could come from. Okay? So therefore, the chokhmah of atzilus and the chokhmah of bria are two different worlds. One's potential, one's realistic, actual. So in order to understand one from the next, you have to give a mashal. Now the mashal really has nothing to do with the seichel. The Ur HaShemesh, when you give a mashal of Elokus from the ray of the sun has nothing to do with Elokus. In fact, it's a separate entity in the mashal of Elokus. But in order to understand the nimshal, to understand what you're trying to understand, you give a mashal of something foreign. That's the curtain that separates Atzilus and Bria. It's much less, though, than the Mokum Ponui. The Mokum Ponui Tzimtzum is, there's not even through a mashal will you understand it. It will come down in a way you cannot understand it. So therefore, what do you need to do? You need to remove it, and then to re-reveal it. In a different way completely. But between Atzilus and Bria, Atzilus is already a world. So now you're talking about from potential to tangible. So over there you need a parsa. Therefore, Bria cannot handle Atzilus as it is. It should only have to be through a parsa that separates. Then then we can understand a little bit the level of Bria. Like for the mashal of sunlight, we'll understand the way it works in Elokus. That the seichel should be understood to the students. So then you understand that level of chachma also. So why is the Alter Rebbe explaining this? The Alter Rebbe is explaining in the whole Maimer this concept of the essence of the nefesh is way above any of those seichel amidas. And so he explains the whole thing of the various different makom panois with various different levels of tzimtzum. And therefore the Alter Rebbe is explaining over here the ultimate greatness of Elokus. The Elokus is so great, even a mashal is not going to help for it. And yet, this is for you. Yet, when you do one little tiny mitzvah, you connect to that essence that is even greater than the makom panu. So he says, therefore, Bria is called Yesh Mi'ayin. Why isn't it Yesh Mi'yesh? He says, if he's Shimberchin is Parsa Shi'er Toltuda, because now, yes, again, we're going to use a Gashmistic mashal. You have a light, and now you put a curtain in front of it. So the light on the other side of the curtain is not just a little bit less. It's a completely different type of a light. Like we said, you could have a light, you go further away from the origin of the light, it's going to be less light.
Less intense.
Yeah, but it's going to be the same light, just a little bit less intense. When you have a curtain, the light on the other side is a completely different type of a light. So because Atzilus is Elokus, and Elokus as is cannot come into Bria, so how do you get Atzilus coming into Bria? And Bria by definition is Yesh Mi'ayin, it's not so much Bittul, so there has to be a Parsa. But it doesn't need the level of Siluk, of Mokum Ponui, like it is from higher than Atzilus into Atzilus. Meaning, the difference between higher than Atzilus and Atzilus is much greater than the difference between Atzilus and Bria. Between Atzilus and Bria, a curtain's going to do it, and higher than Atzilus, a curtain's not going to do it. Bria is the second world.
Second world?
Yes. There are 4 worlds, no? So he says, it's like the seichel that the Talmud understands from the mashal. From the analogy of something else. He understands as Rabbi, therefore, this seichel that the student understands through the mashal is a new type of seichel. It's not the seichel coming directly from the teacher. In fact, Shlomo HaMelech and everything of seichel, the pasuk says, Shleisha Salaf Mashal. Shlomo HaMelech gave 3,000 mashalim for everything. That means he was able to lower the deepest concepts of seichel into the lowest of the lowest levels of understanding. No. But
this idea from Atzilus to Bria goes along the
no, Atzilus to Bria is not Makom. It's Parsa. He said between higher than Atzilus and Atzilus is Makom.
Is that talking about the Simson Rishon that was very in Hashem?
No, relatively speaking, Simson Marishu is the Makom. But now, in more detail, you have various Makom versus not Makom. The original Makom and the real one is Simson Marishu. But relatively speaking, from higher than Atzilus, higher than worlds, to worlds, that is in Makom.
What is Simson Rishon created? It created the world, no?
Simson Marishu allowed limited worlds to exist. Again, it's not aligned. Talking about, again, you want to speak Gashmistic language. Yeah, that's the only way we can understand it.
Did all this revelation happen for the world of Torah?
This is higher than Torah.
So all this revelation happened?
Because in Torah there's already spheres. Except there was no unity of the spheres. But in the Torah there were spheres.
When the teacher puts the seichel on the side to teach the student, or to make a makom, where does the seichel go?
What was that?
He wants to know where the seichel goes when the teacher removes it to reveal to the kid. When you're at, let's say you know something in Torah, yeah? And you're at work, and you're not thinking about it, correct?
Yes.
Where is that seichel? Huh?
In my head.
Where?
There's not a
It's a
makom.
big space.
It's there.
It's there,
It's there.
but not revealed.
Yes.
That's called Makom.
And it's a big difference.
Yeah, I know it's a big difference. You don't have to, you don't have to convince me.
The second doesn't go with the neshama?
When you forget something, where does it go? Forget something, mommy, forget it. Where does it go?
Happens a lot to me now.
No, you forgot it permanently. Where does it go?
It's there.
Where?
It's in your brain. You just don't know.
So where is it? It's stored in the brain?
Yeah.
Maybe you deleted it.
Huh?
Maybe you deleted it.
It never gets deleted.
It's far away.
It's not in front. It's not revealed, but it's there.
That's exactly what Makom means.
It's far away. You need a password.
Kanui means that it's available, but it's empty.
Empty means it's not revealed. What is the big thing? This is one of the easier things in Makam Pani to understand. Makam Pani means it's not revealed. Okay, it's a very simple mashal that the Rabbi gives. Again, it's a mashal of Seichel versus Elokus. It's not, it's no comparison. But when a teacher who's super brilliant wants to teach a little kid, math, and he has all these complicated math things in his head, yes? What does he do? He has to, for a moment, forget everything. It's there, but it's not revealed. It's always revealed by him.
So it's there.
It's there, but it's not revealed. Now, when you speak about teaching through a mashal, you didn't remove your seichel. You just covered your seichel with a mashal to be able to understand it. But you didn't forget the seichel. You didn't remove the seichel. Because if you remove the seichel, you're not going to be able to explain it.
There's no mashal to that.
So then what you do is, when you're giving a mashal, is you are lowering your seichel to the extent that you're talking about something else that's not even relevant to the topic, but that's the way they'll understand it. That's a parsa. But the other way is, the brilliant super guy that needs more to forget the seichel, a mashal is not going to help him. It's too great for a mashal. By the way, class test sponsored by Avram Aradian for good things. Hi. 1 second. Let's go weiter. וכך זה דברי חודש מסחדש ידי הפרטש. והנה המס כל יובן שצהל מססכל שהרב דרך משל שמן לתלמיד, when the teacher is teaching the student through a mashal, who's shekol chachmasei v'atzmusei melubish b'makshal zeh. So again, Makam Pani said it removes the actual and goes into a potential state. In other words, it's there, it's just not revealed. By a mashal, you would say what we just explained. What Al Rebbe is saying is, when there's a mashal, the teacher puts his whole seichel in the mashal. Fakert, it's gilui, v'lei b'kerech levat elu b'peil mamish. Rak, fisha in yeshal chachma mlubashes bay. The thing that the mashal, that the chachma is being dressed in. Shalom me'inyan askal chachma batzmusei. But you're talking about water instead of chesed, or sunlight instead of, shemesh instead of sunlight. The seichel is not revealed to the Talmud, only through a mashal, which is in Yanachet. And that's where the seichel comes from, to the extent it becomes seichel chadash. Okay? So now he says like this. That seichel is only appears to be new. Right? Only appears to be new. Was already there in the mashal. In other words, when the teacher teaches through a mashal, the whole seichel is in the mashal. But the mashal is talking about something else. But the teacher's whole seichel that he's trying to teach is in the mashal. Therefore, by the way, it's interesting. In Torah, Chassidus elaborates on this a lot. A mashal that Torah gives is a mashal in all aspects. Unless if it says it's only in this detail, it's a mashal. A Torah mashal, if Torah says it's a mashal for this, that means it's a mashal in every aspect of it. As opposed to a partial mashal. It's only in this aspect of it. Term mashal is that's correct in all aspects.
Is this related to the pasta between Kodesh and Kodesh?
remember the Alter Rebbe said before, yeah, that there are different parses. There's a Mavdal ben Kodesh l'chel, then ben Kodesh l'kodesh, then you have Chulin shenasal taras kodesh. There's different now, for instance, the parsa between Bria and Yetzira is even a lesser parsa. Because Bria from Atzilus is Yesh Me'ayin. There's a big gap. Between Bria and Yetzira is just between matter and form. So it's a lesser Yerida. So it's not such a big parsa. Understand? Everything is relative. Okay, let's go. Mekacho in your psalms. The Valboch is Chochmah Atzilus Bechinas Parsa. Therefore, the same way that when the Seichel of Atzilus comes with the Parsa to make Chochmah the Bria, Chochmah Atzilus Ubamohusi Vatzmusi Bepel Mamish Mislabesh Bechinas Parsa and causes the Savas of Chochmah the Bria. Okay? Meaning like this, the Alter Rebbe is explaining a different aspect. If it's a parsa of Mokum Panoi, or parsa whatever, so then how is it connected to the higher level? Hishtaushus means there's a connection between one level to the next. Right? So if you're saying Chochmah Atzilus to Abriya is a parsa, not like higher than Atzilus. Right? The four worlds are worlds. They're interconnected. Hishtaushus. Link into link into link. So there's 10 links in Atzilus. Now the bottom link of Atzilus goes into Bria. Right? But if Atzilus and Bria are two different worlds, Yesh Mi'ayin, how can the link be in there? So he's explaining, because the parsa, which is the analogy of a mashal, in the mashal is the whole seichel of the Rav. That means when through the parsa becomes Chochmah Bria, in that Chochmah Bria is Chochmah Atzilus. Therefore, as the Alter Rebbe says in Tanya, the lowest level Malchus, the Malchus of Asiya, is still connected to Chochmah Atzilus. Ayah goes through Tzimtzum and Parsa and all that stuff, but it's still in the Mashal is the whole Seichel of the Rav. That's why to explain Mashal. The Gemara says, Moshe Rabbeinu says at the end of Chumash that Hashem didn't give you Lev Ladas, Ayin Lev Ladas Ada Yem Hazeh. V'lenasar Hashem Lachem Lev Ladas V'ayin Liris V'aznayim L'shmei Ada Yem Hazeh. The pasuk says at the end of Chumash, Moshe Rabbeinu tells the Yidden, Hashem didn't give you the understanding yet until today. That was 40 years after Matan Torah. From there, the Gemara says, a person doesn't understand, doesn't come to the in-depth seichel of the Rav for 40 years. It means after 40 years, you really get it. Okay? So machlekes doesn't mean 40 years old, doesn't mean 40 years from the time you heard it. But the cheshbon is, after 40, now, if the whole seichel of the Rav wasn't in it when he taught the students, how can he get to the ultimate seichel after 40 years? So obviously, the whole seichel of the Rav was there when he taught the kid on day one, or the Talmud on day one. At the end of 40 years, it becomes completely revealed. Because it's all there, really. The whole seichel of the Rav in the mashal is there. And then eventually the Talmud, by analyzing the mashal, could uncover and uncover and uncover and uncover for 40 years and finally get it. Completely.
4 years into that, 136 years to get there?
By some people, a year might be a century.
Honestly, this class is the one that I can't even pretend like I understood them.
They'll do Malcolm Pony on you. Just forget everything we know.
I don't get anything. I cannot even
That is the whole purpose. You understand? We think, yeah, God is a little bit greater than us. Yeah, okay, we can't understand it, but it's in the same league. So comes along Chassidus and says, you have no idea how nothing of Elokus you understand. Yet, you are super connected. The whole point of Chassidus is to understand the greatness of Hashem that we can't understand it, the lowness of man as far as the body is concerned, and the level that a person could reach by doing Torah mitzvahs. So in other words, no, but they didn't even know that they didn't understand. If you don't learn about godliness, okay, there's stories, the Rebbe has a whole letter, and there was a chassid, a great chassid, who was reminiscing his past life before he started learning Chassidus. And he says, this is what the Rebbe writes in the letter, the chassid is talking. He says, they pictured God, you have to fear God. So without Chassidus, they learned, what does fearing God mean? God is a ferocious buffalo. No, this is the way the guy writes. He was a ferocious buffalo about to attack when you did something wrong.
Where did he say that? Where?
That's what the guy said he used to think.
He said,
But that's how this one person.
One guy was explaining it like this.
How he understood.
it's not in our writing. There's nothing in our credible writing such description of it.
Yeah, but that's the mental. No, this is the mental attitude that people have. How many times did people tell you, if I sin, will lightning come out from heaven and strike me? You never heard that. What are you talking about?
Where is it written?
In written people's warped mind.
They say story, but show me where was it written that any luminary Jewish sage that was credible and fuller had such silly description,
How do you picture God as fearing God? What does it mean?
No, it's odd.
What does it mean? What is? I understand. What does it mean?
It's very abstract.
What is God? How are you picturing God that you have to fear
When
Him?
I was a kid, I had a description, but when I lost my belief in God, it's something else. I'm trying to find it back.
Oh, okay. So that's a whole different story.
That's why you're here. That's why. So you know more than us.
Okay.
You know how to understand.